Well, hello, everyone. I am so super excited that all of y'all are getting to join me today. My name's Heather. I'll be y'all's facilitator for today. Um, I'm going to be using the slides most of the time, but I wanted to show y'all my face just so you know who's talking with you today. Um, So if you would put in the chat, it'll be fun to see where everyone's joining from. So you can use the chat feature at the bottom, and I will try to keep up with those throughout the night. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump while y'all are putting in the chat where you're all joining from. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go over some housekeeping things just to keep in mind for today. Let's see. There we go. It's not pulling it up for some reason. And it was just here. Let's see. That is very strange. I should have kept my thing up. Okay, let's try this. All right. Sorry, guys. I believe it or not, have tried this about 4 times today, and it worked great every single time until, of course, you need it. So, okay, so let's see if that works. I just started it over. Share screen. Here we go. Oh. Oh, here we go. All right. Sorry about that, guys. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. Okay. Okay. Now on to the housekeeping. Since this is the most boring part of the entire presentation, I'm gonna get it out of the way at the beginning, and then we can jump into the fun stuff. So just for y'all's info, if you will put Heather at restoredholisticcoaching.com on your email's safe list. That should have been the email that you got all the reminders from, but just make sure it's on your safe list because this meeting is being recorded and it will be sent out to all the participants who signed up. But if that email isn't on your safe list, it could be landing in junk or spam or whatever, and you don't want that to happen. You want it to, you want to be able to get the recording after this. So just make sure that that is on your safe list. Everyone is going to be staying muted until the Q&A section. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go over the 3 ways that your body can heal itself as part of the presentation. And then at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. So you can ask me your questions in real time and I can answer them. You can either put them in the chat or you can we can unmute one at a time and you can ask your questions that way. But I'm going to keep everyone muted until the end. And then at the Q&A section, then you are more than welcome to either unmute and ask your question, or you can just put it in the chat. And number 4, use the chat during the thing. So if you have, feedback or reactions to stuff, you can put it in the chat and y'all can be chatting to each other if you want to do that. That's just always fun to see. But if you have a specific question as we go, like you're like, okay, wait, Heather, back up, explain that again. Save those questions until the end at the Q&A section. So if it's something specific to your situation or it's something specific to what I said, I want to explain it better for you, but let's do that all at the Q&A session. So specific questions save to the end, but definitely use the chat, and there'll be some prompts throughout the presentation as well to use the chat for specific things. So, and then I also just wanted to give y'all a heads up. We will have one small section of the presentation that we're doing some small movements, simple, gentle movements, just to illustrate the point that we'll be talking about at that point. But do what you are physically able to do. So like if you have, a hurt shoulder or a hurt back or, something like that, do what feels good to you. Don't do something that's painful. If it's just, you modify it to however it fits you to be physically able and comfortable with doing, because that's part of what we want to do to help our bodies heal. So I think we can dive in. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about myself, just so you don't feel like you're completely talking to a stranger. My name's Heather. As I said before, I am a licensed therapist. I have over 10 years of experience in the mental health field, both professionally and personally with my own story. I used to have a private counseling practice where I mainly did cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like brain-based therapy. So it starts with the brain and then goes from there. And as you'll see in our presentation today, I now approach my work with people using body-centered approach and trauma-informed. So that just means we start with the body, like learning to listen to our bodies and the messages that our body gives us so that our bodies can be able to heal themselves, especially if you struggle with an autoimmune issue or chronic anxiety. You are the people that I'm talking to today. So I'm really excited for what we have to cover today. Just a little tiny bit about my story. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 15 years old. And so that began a 20+ year journey of me learning how our bodies are wired and how we can heal ourselves. And it's a long rambling road, but it has landed me where I am today. And so I'm super excited to be able to just present what I have today, because I think it will help you too. I also, just fun tidbit, I have a home bakery that specializes in gluten-free and dairy-free baked goods. And so that's also allowed me to just work with lots of people with different food restrictions and figure out, like, when I do work with people, I'll ask them about that. If food is one of the things that they're wanting to focus on as far as just nutrition guidelines and things like that, I can ask, like, what has worked for you before? What hasn't worked for you? What bothers you? What doesn't bother you? That sort of thing. And so that has just added to my experience in on top of the psychology background. So that is a little bit about where I'm coming from. And then this is actually this picture. I will come back to this actually. Yeah, let's come back to this slide, because I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. Because I want to tell y'all a story and I want you to be able to see my face while telling it. All right, well, y'all put in the chat if you can see me, because I am not seeing me. And so I want to just make sure, as long as y'all are seeing me, then we're golden. So just put a thumbs up in the chat, or a yes, I can see you in the chat, just because I want to, okay, cool, Jill, thanks. I want to be able to know that y'all are seeing me. All right, so I wanted to share a quick story with y'all just as we get started. I'm hoping that it will direct us in the mode that we're going to be in, just to keep on, just to give us a focus for today, before I jump into my 3 things. So I want to tell a story. I had a doctor many years ago. He was one of my surgeons, that, let's just set the stage here. Doctors and people in the medical profession, they are very busy people. And so usually they will come in and they'll, be very rushed, and then they might scribble something on a pad and then give it to you, and then, you're done. Well, this doctor was unlike any that I've ever had, and I've had a lot. he would come in, and it was after one of my major surgeries. So I always had lots of questions, and my mom was usually there with me because this was in my early 20s. And he knew that my mom had a yellow legal pad that she kept all of her notes on and wrote all of her questions on. And like throughout the week, the nurses would tell us stuff and she'd be scribbling down, stuff. And then when he came in, he would always like kind of lean back against the counter or in the chair or whatever. And he'd always be like, okay, what questions do you have? And he'd look at me and he'd look at my mom and he'd answer our questions and explain, whatever we needed explaining. And then he was like, okay, what else? And then he would answer. And even if it was only for like 10 minutes or less, because he was a busy doctor, like he knew his stuff and had lots of people that were coming to him. And he always made sure that we felt like we were seen and heard. And especially in that field that sometimes that feels unusual to come across. And if you've lived with a chronic illness, you might have experienced that with doctors. But he just was unlike any other doctor that I've ever had. He took his time, and even in that short little window, he made us feel like, okay, we were heard, we were seen, we got all our questions answered. And we always felt more at peace when he left the room than when he came in. And so I hope that that's what y'all are going to get from me today, is like, I hope that you feel heard and seen. And especially at the end, if you'll have questions like specific or about anything that I talk about today, or just even about your own situation, like, hey, I have this struggle, can this help me? I would love to answer them. And so I just wanted to set that as a stage of like, I hope that this is a space where you feel safe, where you feel seen and heard, even though we're only together for a short time. And so let's also keep in mind 2 guidelines as we go through, because I'm going to give you 3 things that your body can use to heal itself. And I'll explain what that means here in a second. But let's keep in mind 2 things. Number 1, everybody is different. So every person is different, and also every body, like physical body, is different. So the things that I'm doing are the things that we'll talk about today are general guidelines, and they do work, like there's scientific base to them. So they're awesome. But your specific situation or your specific thing you struggle with, we might have to delve deep in a different direction or just in a specific area. So that's a lot of times when I do my individual coaching sessions, which we'll talk about at the end too. So hang tight for that one. In the individual coaching sessions, we're able to dive deep more into your specific diagnosis or your specific area of pain or inflammation or chronic illness or whatever. And so just keep that in mind. Everybody is different. So what might work for you might not work as well for me, or what might work good for me may not work as well for you. And so that's what the individual coaching sessions are for, is one-on-one. We can dive deep into like, hey, what's working, what's not working, where do we need to go? So keep that in mind. Everybody is different. And then number 2, I tend to take a approach of flexible healing for your wellness. I'm not going to come at you with a plan, like a step-by-step, do this plan. There are going to be guidelines and like, hey, let's look at this, or like, oh, that doesn't work for my body, I'm going to not do that, so there's going to be some guidelines as you go, because you're going to learn to listen to your body. And that's what the coaching is for. We go back and forth, like you get to listen to your body, and then you get to tell me like, hey, this is what's working, this is what's not working. But I take more of the approach that it's a rhythm of healing. Like it's not going to be a rigid plan, because if you have a plan and you're like, oh, Heather said I need to do this and this and this and this, guess what? That puts you in stress mode. And stress mode is not the mode for healing your body. Stress mode, you cannot be in stress mode and your body healing itself at the same time. So mine is more of a flexible healing. You get to observe what's working. You get to observe what's not working. You get to show kindness to yourself and your body, and then that's how we move into healing. So just keep those 2 things in mind. Flexible healing, everybody is different, as we go throughout today, and that will help you just have a good overview of where we're approaching. So back to this fun little nifty slide. Zoom share. It keeps pausing the screen share for some reason, and I don't know why. Maybe I shouldn't take it down. Maybe I should just keep it up the whole time. Okay, yeah, because it keeps getting rid of that window when I push stop share. It goes away. Then I have to bring it back. Okay, sorry people. I'm just gonna have to keep the slides up then because I would like to talk to y'all face to face and let that work that way, but I don't think it's going to work that way. All right, take 3. Look, well, there it is. It's showing up in my window to be able to share, but then it goes away. All right, well, we'll just have to keep the slides up. Sorry, guys. There's always technical difficulties on these webinars. Like you think that you're all prepared and you practice a bajillion times and something still always goes wrong. But that's all right. We are going to make it. Let's get to the fun stuff. Oh, I wanted to share you this picture. I love it so much. Your body is a voice worth listening to. So it just reminded me of Dr. Bayouth, my surgeon, of just listening and telling us that we were worthy to be listened to. And so I hope that that's how y'all feel while we talk today. And this illustration is actually from Dr. Hillary McBride's new book, The Practices for Embodied Living. This and a whole bunch of other of my favorite books and other resources, including free resources, is available on the resources tab of my website. So it's just restoredholisticcoaching.com/resources. I will put that in the chat so y'all can have access to that. And it will also be in the follow-up emails that y'all get. I'll make sure this resource tab is there. So, okay. All right, there y'all go. And let's continue. Oh. Okay, number 1. Sneak peek. Introducing the vagus nerve. Okay, so vagus nerve is super cool. If y'all have been to a previous webinar of mine and we talked about the vagus nerve, please don't check out here because I promise you the other 2 things that I'm covering have never been covered in any of my other webinars yet. But must introduce the vagus nerve because it's very important. So the vagus nerve is part of our central nervous system. So the central nervous system is in charge of like non-conscious things like breathing and blinking and digestion and things like that. But there are also physical conscious things that we can do to help our nervous system out and help regulate our nervous system, which causes our body to start healing itself. So how that works is this. Now, bear with me, short science lesson here. Even if you hated science as a kid, you'll like this. This is cool. Okay, so 80% of the brain and the body communication. So the brain and the body work together. They talk to each other. But 80% of that communication actually comes from the body. It does not come from the brain. I think I lived most of my life thinking that the brain was in charge. It's not. So most of the body communication is going to be non-conscious, like it happens without us thinking. And so it's almost like, it's in the 5 senses, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. Like the body's always taking in things from our environment and processing them. But there's also, you know, how people call it like the 6th sense, like your intuition. That is actually a part of the nervous system as well, because things are happening and the nervous system is processing information and our brains may not have words for them yet. Like if something scares you, you jump. Well, your brain, like you don't have words in your brain like, oh, look at the stick. I think it's a snake. You know, jump, quick, get out of the way. Your body just reacts. And so in that way, our body unconsciously is taking in and processing and making our, like reacting in our body. And we don't always realize it, but it's actually happening. So the vagus nerve, like I said, is part of the central nervous system. It is the longest cranial nerve in the entire body. So that means that it is like one single bundle of nerves that runs from your brainstem all the way down to your small and large intestine. So just to give y'all a picture, take your hand and put it on the back of your head. So like the base of your skull, the top of your neck, that's the brain stem. That's where the vagus nerve starts. And then it goes down to your vocal cords. You could touch your throat, and then your heart. You can touch your heart. And then it goes all the way down. It touches all of your major organs. It touches your liver and your spleen and your pancreas and your kidneys and your stomach. And then it goes all the way down. You can put your hand on your belly. It goes down into your small and large intestines, which y'all can see on this super cool picture. I love this one so much. This is also, it's from The Garden Within by Dr. Anita Phillips. That one's also on my resources page. It comes, just FYI, this was not in my notes, but in case y'all, this applies to some of y'all, this book talks a lot about the cross between biblical scripture. So if you are a person of the Christian faith, it crosses biblical scripture with the science and the emotions and the body and how the body functions. And so that's a really cool one to pick up if you want more info on this information. But this picture came from that book, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So you can see the vagus nerve all down where the small and large intestines are. So that is, you know, if you hold anxiety in your gut or anything like that, like feel butterflies in your stomach or get stomach knots in stomach when you're in your stomach when you're stressed, that is because that your vagus nerve is starting to like not work as well as it should. So there are easy, scientifically based ways that we can activate our vagus nerve and regulate our bodies. Now, when I say regulate your body or regulate your nervous system, think of it this way. So if you tend to go up in stress, like if you are way up here when you get anxious, or when you're in stress, you go way down here, like shutdown mode, like freeze, not gonna do it. Whether you are up here or down here, it doesn't matter. When you activate the vagus nerve, which we will talk about in a minute, how to do that. When you activate the vagus nerve, it regulates your nervous system. So a lot of times I'll make the mistake and say calms your nervous system just because I tend to be up here, so it calms me down. But if you tend to be down here, it actually gives you energy to be able to do the next thing and to be present for your family and your friends. And because it regulates, and when it regulates, it makes the body and your organs start functioning the way that they're supposed to. And that is what heals your body. That's how your brain and your body work together to heal, because then your digestion is working the way it's supposed to. Your liver is working the way it's supposed to. Your stomach is working the way it's supposed to. Your breathing is working the way it's supposed to. And so everything starts functioning the way that it's supposed to when the nervous system regulates. And that's what brings healing to your body and reduces inflammation and chronic pain. So there are so many different ways to regulate the nervous system, which we can cover in usually in my first individual coaching session with people. I'll cover a little bit more about that. You basically go through the 5 senses, but there's different things under those 5 senses that you can do. But we're going to just focus on 2 today. So no worries, not going to give you 50. We are going to focus on deep breaths and crossing the midline. And so we're going to actually do these both at the same time. So crossing the midline, in case you don't know, the midline is like an invisible line in the middle of your body. And a lot of times actually teachers will teach this to kids in school, like in pre-K and stuff. And if you ever, I don't know if they do this as much anymore, but used to in like PE and stuff, they'd have the kids doing exercises where they're like reaching around the, you know, and bending over and crossing. This is crossing the midline because it's crossing your body like this. And then, or even if you're sitting at your desk and you turn your head like that over your shoulder and take a deep breath, and then you turn it the other way and take a deep breath, that is still going to activate your vagus nerve, and then it starts regulating your nervous system. So we are going to practice this. So if you are able and or willing, if you will stand up, and I don't think anybody's camera's on, so y'all just get to watch me, I guess. But hopefully you're participating at your house or wherever you're joining from. So we are going to just practice crossing the midline. So also, while we're doing this, we're gonna focus on taking deep breaths. That means slowing down your breathing. Usually I will count to 4, like inhale for 4, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale slowly, 2, 3, 4. But on the deep breaths, mainly, I just want you to focus today on slowing down your breathing and focusing on deep exhales, because deep exhales is one of the #1 ways that you can almost instantaneously regulate your nervous system. So we're regulating through our breathing, slowing down our breathing, and then crossing the midline. So there's no right or wrong way to do this, but if you want to just practice with me, you can do some gentle twists like this. Put your head over your shoulder as you're going back and forth. And then you can always get crazy. You can start reaching like this, or do some circles if you're able to do circles, and then go the other way. And so the thing with me and movement is I can give you guidelines, but I'm going to basically let you do whatever feels good to you. But just crossing the midline means using both sides of your body, your hands and your legs, and crossing this mid part of your body. So any kind of movement, literally anything, any kind of movement crossing midline, or walking or dancing or anything like that, that is going to help regulate your nervous system, and it happens almost immediately. So those are some little things that we can do. And like I said, there's a lot more where that came from, but we can talk about it more at the individual coaching sessions, and or if you have questions about it at the end, we can do the Q&A session and go from there. So #2, we're going to move on to #2. Now, self-compassion, it's kind of a little bit of a less tangible thing, but it is very, very important, and probably one of the most transformative things for me in your body learning to heal itself, and you learning to pay attention to your body so that it can heal itself. Because you'll hear me talk about learning to listen to the messages that your body sends you. Because a lot of us, especially if you've lived with a chronic illness, we don't know how to listen to our bodies. We tolerate our bodies, and we're very aware when they're in pain or bothering us, but we don't always listen like, okay, my body's kind of bothering me right now. Like, what's it trying to tell me? What do I need? How do I need to help it? Like we just don't think or talk about our bodies that way. And so self-compassion is one of the steps in learning how to listen to the cues that your body gives you. So my best definition of self-compassion that I've come across is from Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. If you've read any of Brene Brown's books, this one's a little bit different in the sense that it's not just a book about a certain topic. She actually breaks down a lot of the topics, the subjects that she will talk about in her other books, and she goes through her research, like through the decades of research that she's done, and she puts a definition to them. So she has it split up into different categories, like, see, I have mine here. She has it split up into different categories of like places we go when we are uncertain or too much, and then under that's stress, overwhelm, anxiety, worry. Places we go when we compare, comparison, admiration, reverence, envy, jealousy. And so she goes through each of these, and based on her research and the research of other people, defines like, what does this actually mean when we say this, and what does it look like in our lives? And so I really enjoyed her take on self-compassion. It really made an impact, and it's actually not based on her specific research. So it's from Brene Brown in the sense that it's in her book, but it's actually from Dr. Kristen Neff, who has a bunch of research about self-compassion. So she has 3 different points about self-compassion. And so I just wrote down the summary here, so I won't read you straight from the book. But, and once again, that book is available on the resources tab on the website. So, so there's 3 things that she helps us in defining self-compassion and like what that looks like in our lives. She says, #1, it's self-kindness versus self-judgment. So basically just learning to be kind to yourself, learning to be gentle to yourself, and like the way you talk to yourself. Would you talk to a friend the way that you talk to yourself? I didn't realize this until probably just a few years ago, where I really realized I still kind of joke now. Like I'll joke around like, yep, my body's being weird today or whatever. But I used to be very, very demeaning to my body. Like whether it was me talking out loud to myself at my house or talking about myself to other people, I'd be like, oh, why is my body doing this? My body's rebelling against me. Or I'd be like, yeah, my body's crazy. Or like just I was very mean to my body and myself. And then when I finally realized, like, oh, I'm not being very kind to myself at all. And it started changing the way that I talk to myself. That really helped me in healing my body. Because when we start talking to ourselves with kindness and self-compassion, or even if we say something and then we catch ourselves and we have to talk to ourselves again, like I literally will talk out loud to myself, like, no, that's not true. I'm sorry, you're just trying to do the best you can. Like, okay, what are you trying to tell me? I can tell something's up. What are you trying to tell me? And like talk to my own body that way and just try to like figure out what's going on. But then that puts us in a calmer state, which calms, regulates the nervous system, which helps us to continue to heal our bodies. So the number two, so if you want to hear more about that, again, I would say Q&A time or individual coaching sessions if that one really resonates with you, because obviously that one's important to me, but don't have a lot of time to cover it. So we're going to move on. Number two is common humanity versus isolation. And that just means acknowledging that we're all human and we all struggle and we all mess up, but also that we're all in this together. So not using that as a form of isolation. Like sometimes it's hard when we've struggled our whole life with like a chronic illness or anxiety, like anxious nerves all the time. It's easy to isolate, especially if you tend to be an introvert like me. And not saying extroverts don't struggle with it too, but a lot of introverts, they hold their stress in, and so that causes illness and disease on the inside, and then we just isolate and we don't share and reach out to other people. So that's part of the self-compassion piece, is like when we have compassion for ourselves, then we're also able to have compassion for others, like realizing like, hey, we're all in this together, like we're all human, we all struggle, maybe in different ways, but we still have that in common. So, and then mindfulness versus over identification, just being self-aware. I think that's the biggest first step, is being aware, like when I had to learn, like, oh, I'm not being very kind to myself. Like just being aware of our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, and acknowledge when we're in pain. I am the first to say, don't sweep. I am not going to tell you to sweep things under the rug. Like acknowledge when it's hard. But a lot of times, especially if you do one-on-one coaching with me, you'll hear this a lot, is we have to learn to balance the this is really tough and this is really hard with, okay, what's going to be the next step? Like still hold on to hope even when we're holding on to the hard. So just don't let the pain and the struggles define you or take over. So definitely acknowledge the hard. That's part of healing, I think. But also try to look for hope as well. So more about that in one-on-one coaching sessions as well. So my thing with the whole self-compassion thing, this has been sort of my rule to myself, is compromising with myself. That just means observing, not trying to judge or fix, just like watching, like noticing when things come up, like, okay, I notice, not trying to fix it right then or shove it down, just notice. And then compromise tends to get a bad rap because we think compromise means like we're compromising our values or compromising our standards. Like we think of it in a negative way, but compromise just means meeting in the middle. So like, for example, I'm sure y'all, if you have kids or work with kids, you probably do a lot of things like where they want to keep playing, but you need them to clean their room or do whatever, clean the table, whatnot. And then a compromise would be, okay, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Like we're literally going to set the timer on the microwave and you can play for 10 minutes. But then when we're done, you're going to get up and you're going to do what I asked you to do. And so that's a compromise in the sense of like childcare. And then some examples of compromising with myself is like, okay, with sugar, we all know that there is no scientific evidence that sugar is good for us. But I am not going to be one that says no sugar ever, 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 because I've learned that when I deprive myself of something like forever and always, then I end up actually doing the opposite and usually binging. So I will, but I've learned to compromise with myself when it comes to like sugar and sweet things. I will say yes, but not today. I'm going to wait 3 days. Like I've learned I can only take sugar about once a week. As far as like, if I'm wanting to have cookies or something, I still have like honey in my tea and things like that. But um, that's how I compromise with myself. Or like if I'm, especially in these winter months when I'm wanting to have hot tea all the time, if it happens to be caffeinated tea, I will space it out and put like a drink of water, like make sure I drink a glass of water before I have a second cup of tea or whatever. And so it's just little things like that. And you have to find your rhythm and where it works for you and what you need to, help with as far as habits and things like that. But compromising with yourself, it comes from a place of self-compassion. Like, hey, I see you and I'm going to give you a yes, but it might be a yes, but not yet sort of thing. And so that is unique to each person, but that's an example of just what does self-compassion look like in my daily life. And it's just learning to compromise with yourself sometimes when it comes to like healthy lifestyles and starting to heal your body. So, and like I was saying before, it doesn't have to be strict or regimented, like do this, do this, do this, do this, because like I said, that puts you in stress mode and fight or flight mode. That's not going to put you in healing mode. So it is more of a rhythm and a dance. It's like learning to, I am taking ballroom dancing lessons right now, and it's been a chore for me to learn how to follow the lead, like, because yes, there's parts of it like you have to count the music and keep on beat and things like that, but you're listening with your body. You're not listening with your brain. Like if you're following and somebody else is leading, you are there's another part of you that's having to listen and respond. And so it's sort of the same way as when you're learning to listen to your body. It's a whole different switch in your brain. It doesn't always have words first. So yes, you use your brain, and yes, your thoughts are important. I'm not saying your thoughts are not important, but there is communication and messages that are going on in your body, and but you have to tune in and learn how to listen to that. So that is the challenge. All right, and then number 3 is co-regulation. So the reason I do this as number 3 is because number 1 and 2, I want you to learn how to regulate your own self. I want to show you that there's ways that you can regulate your own nervous system, whether you live by yourself, whether you're just in your office and you need to, regulate, either calm down or get some energy up to do your work. There are ways that you can, wherever you are, you can regulate your nervous system almost immediately, or give yourself 2 or 3 minutes to regulate, whether that's taking deep breaths or moving around a little bit or whatever. But another tool in your tool belt can be co-regulation, which means regulating with other people. And that is specifically safe people, not, somebody that you feel safe with. So like, do y'all ever have like a friend or partner or spouse or whoever that like whenever they walk into the room or whenever you're hanging out with them, you just feel calmer on the inside, like they just make you feel better? That is a co-regulating person. Or a soothing voice. Like I have some podcasts that I listen to specifically just because they have very soothing voices, and sometimes I just need to chill. So, or maybe you've had the opposite of like when somebody's agitated or frustrated or upset or whatever, and it seems to rub off on you. That's the nervous system. You know how I was saying how like our bodies take in information from our environment and they're communicating with us. Well, they're also communicating with the people around us. So that's not woo-woo. It's not like your aura or your vibration or whatever. I don't do that kind of stuff. But it is your nervous system. It's science. Like, because we all know that like our bodies are made up of like protons and atoms and neutrons and things that are like moving particles that happen to be solid matter, but like there's moving particles. Well, same with our nervous systems is number one, we're made of moving particles. And number two, there's a part of us that's like our soul or our spirit that's not tangible. And so like we are feeling each other's feelings, you know, or whatever. And some of us feel more feelings than other people. But like that's just our nervous systems talking to each other and our nervous systems trying to give us messages. So we can use that to our advantage by finding calm, trusting people that, or if we tend to be go into freeze mode, maybe we need some upbeat people that bring us up. But either way, find people that regulate us. And you can tell the difference in your body when this happens. And then that helps, like that's another way to purposely regulate with other people. So just as a matter of practical things, here's what that kind of looks like. It could be, you can do it just by hanging out with each other and just regulate that way. But if you want to like specifically practice this, you can find a safe person and be like, hey, I learned about co-regulation the other day, and like, can we practice this together for like 2 minutes? Because I really need this right now, or something, you know, I don't know, however you want to do it. You can do it intentionally or unintentionally, but what that could look like is like slow breathing together. And you might have friends that already do this. Like if they see that you're stressed, they put their hands on your shoulders and be like, breathe, breathe with me. Like that, you know. So if you already have friends that do that, that is co-regulation. And so slow breathing together, eye gazing, which we'll talk about here in a second, hugs or other healthy touch, laughter, it helps regulate your nervous system because it activates your vagus nerve. When you use your vocal cords, it activates that vagus nerve to regulate everything. And then just a caring voice, like I was saying, calming voice. We flow out off of each other as far as that goes. And so just calming, caring voice helps to regulate each other. So I want to try something with y'all. We're going to try an eye gazing experiment. So I want to, we might have a couple of extra minutes because I'm going to have to stop the screen share for a second so y'all can see me. So as we have already figured out today, it takes me a couple seconds to get the screen share back up. But what's going to happen is I'm going to look at the camera. So I think as far as in practice, I don't know if it's direct eye contact, but it's the closest to direct eye contact that I could get. And so I'm going to look in the camera for 2 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes. And it's not a blinking contest, so you can blink as much as you want, but try not to break eye contact. Like just try to like look at each other for a little bit. And I'm going to pause the share. Okay. Okay, screen sharing is paused. Oh, no, go back. All right, so I'm gonna do it this way because I'm not sure if y'all could see me the other way or not. I am not seeing the same thing y'all are seeing. I'm sorry, I don't have a good, I'm not getting speaker view, and I've tried to change it to speaker view and I can't get it to speaker view. So, but at least this way, okay, screen is not shared, so y'all should be seeing me. So we're gonna do the eye gazing experiment, and I will talk more about it when we're done. So I'm gonna set our timer. And then, like I said, you can blink or whatever, or put your glasses up on your nose or whatnot. Just try to maintain eye contact as much as possible. Okay. Set a timer for 2 minutes. All right, here we go. So put in the chat, how is your body feeling now? How many of y'all thought that felt like a really long time? Or how many of y'all were nervous when I started talking about it? You're like, she's gonna make us do what? But how does your body feel now? Are you calmer now than you were at the beginning? Calms me down anyways. A calm sense of euphoria. I like that. Somebody said, I'm amused. Oh, her dog was squeaking the ball the entire time. All right. Trying to get our window back up. It literally disappears. I don't know what's the deal. All right, here we go. We're just gonna do that one. Where did it go? Oh. This is our relaxing moment after the eye gazing experiment. Okay, so exciting news. As I get to the slide, I'm going, but while we're talking about just eye gazing and listening to our bodies and just the practicalness of what that looks like, I do want to point out, I do have a free resource it's on the resources tab. So same place I've been directing y'all all night, but it's one of my freebies. And I just wanted to specifically point it out to y'all. So it's called How to Practice Listening to Your Body. And so I don't know, some of y'all may have grabbed it already, but if you have not, it is for free. It is on the resource tab. And like I said, that will be in the follow-up emails as well, that link. I really didn't want to finish this without the slideshow, but it's not going very fast. Here we go. All right. Home stretch, almost done, people. Thank you for your patience. Sorry about the tech issues. Okay, so this is the example page 1 of what the how to practice listening to your body looks like. But it, like I said, it's on the resources tab. It's one of the free guides, but it really walks you step by step. It's really interactive as far as like walking you step by step of listening to your body, and then having you like pay attention, and then it's kind of a choose your own adventure thing. So like if you're feeling this, you get to pick one of these things to do and then come back to your body. Okay, how does my body feel now? Can I go on with my day, or do I need to do something different? So, and then if you really, after all this, if you feel like you need just a deep dive and the individual coaching sessions sound like what you need, I do want to point that out before we end. And don't leave yet. There's something special at the end of this, so don't leave. I have something else for y'all. We're not done, but I wanted to, before we started wrapping up, talk about the individual coaching sessions. So like I said, it's specific strategies that work with your body. Specifically to you. So the things that we talked about today are still very relevant, but what you're specifically struggling with might be different, than another person. And so that's what we discuss with the individual coaching sessions. And we really hone in on what can work for you, because there's so many different strategies and so many things you can do, especially depending on like where your body holds stress and what is your, primary thing that's really bothering you right now, that sort of thing. So, and then bonus, because y'all are here on the call, special deal if you schedule before midnight. So midnight tonight, Thursday. So even if you're watching the replay, if you happen to catch it Thursday night, sign up, register, or schedule your first session. before midnight tonight, and you get an entire 50-minute coaching session for free. So if you schedule one session, you get 2 sessions. And then if you schedule bundle 4, which is you get a discount if you bundle 4, you get 5 sessions. So it's really a cool deal. Very exciting. And so you just schedule the first one, and then the follow-up ones we schedule as we go. So we'll schedule the next one before the end of the first coaching session, that sort of thing. But I will be able to have a note, like, because I know what the timestamp of when you signed up before midnight, I'll make a note that you get the extra session for free. So that is my special bonus for my webinar people today. The link for the signing up, which also, like I said, will be in your follow-up emails, but I'm going to put it here just in case. I had a copy and paste ready, but that would require me stopping the screen share, and we all know what happens when that happens, so we're not going to do that. All right, so that's the link for the scheduling your individual coaching sessions. If you want to grab that, and like I said, it will also be in your follow-up email. But if you're wanting to get the bonus before midnight, there's your link. And then just before we end, I really wanted to end on just an encouraging note. I want to read a short poem that I wrote. And you might have seen this. I shared it a couple weeks ago on social media, but I wanted to share it here with y'all. And then those of y'all who are here live today, I am going to send you a free gift. So I'm going to actually have this poem. It's in a printable format, so you can print it and you can change the size of how you print it. But I just want to gift this to you as an encouragement. I know, especially if you struggle with chronic illness and things like that, and you're just trying to find what works, and you want to feel better, but you don't know how, that sort of thing. It can be very discouraging sometimes. And so I hope that this poem is just an encouragement to you, like it has been for me, to just keep going and to trust that even when things seem dark, like there is going to be light ahead. So I want to just read this to y'all. It's called Seed. You may feel like a small seed buried in the ground. It is cold. It is dark. It's lonely. You feel invisible. You feel like you've been forgotten. But remember, a seed's roots grow down first, going down deep, deep, deep down into the dark. You can't see it above the surface yet, but that doesn't mean growth is not happening. Just wait. Take courage. The growth will come. The seed will sprout and bloom. So I hope that that's an encouragement to y'all. And because those of y'all who are live here on this call, look for that email. I'll send you the printable. And then you can frame it or put it on your bulletin board or wherever that's encouraging to you. And you can make it the different sizes, however you want to do that. So, all right, questions. This is the fun part. What questions do y'all have? I'm pulling up the chat now, see if there's anything. Okay, so Nicole says, this question is really random, but this weekend someone told me that wearing sunglasses is an endocrine blocker. Have you ever heard that? I have never heard that ever before, but that does not mean it's not true. It's just not my area of expertise. So endocrine is like hormones and all of that. That is not my forte. So I have not heard that. And so I cannot speak to that yay or nay, but I would do some research on that. I mean, there is protection with sunglasses as far as, because I mean, your eyes are it's one of the passages of like how things get into your system, because it's one of the orifices, if you want to get technical about it, of how things get into your system. And so it could be there's possibility there, but that is definitely not my forte, so I am sorry, I cannot speak to that. But now you're going to get me curious, and I'll probably do some research and I can message you what I find. All right, what other questions, if anybody has, or you can just unmute yourself and ask your question out loud if you would like to do that, if that's easier. than putting it in the chat. So I just want to make sure to allow time if y'all do, but I also don't want to waste your time if you don't have questions. It can be about anything. It can be about anything I talked about or specific to your issue, whatever. Anything specific about the coaching sessions? Okay, and then just as a reminder about the coaching sessions, bonus, special deal, link in the chat. Oh, we got a chat. Let's see what we got. Oh, how do food allergens block us from listening to our cues, or is there a correlation? Oh, so if Nicole, if you're talking about like the cues that our bodies are giving us, how do food allergens block that? It's because if we have something that we're sensitive to or that we need to restrict in our bodies, as far as just, like I said, everybody is different. So if we have food allergens that we have to be aware of, if your body is trying to fight a food allergen that doesn't agree with it, it's going to be in stress mode. So it's almost like, maybe not quite as this extreme, but it's similar to like the immune system fighting something in our bodies. And so I know that's what doctors tell you with autoimmune issues, is like your body's just fighting against itself. It doesn't have to be that way, but it could be a factor. So the food allergens, if you have food allergens that you're struggling with, when you're able to calm and regulate, I say calm, but up or down, regulate your nerve system, and get some of that inflammation and the irritations in check, it should help with the food allergens. But also if you're struggling with food allergens that you do need to, like your body, you just know that don't work for your body, that you need to restrict, your body's in stress mode because it's fighting it, because it doesn't like it. And so that's going to be in stress mode. And so that means your body's not in rest mode. And that means it's not healing it. It's not able to heal itself. So that's how the food allergens, I hope that makes sense. That's how the food allergens correlate. There is a correlation. And then also just the whole factor of gut health being a big factor in all of your health. But if you want to take it from just the nervous system standpoint, that's the easiest way to tell you, is that your body's in stress, fight or flight mode. But also just gut health is a whole other subject. But we can talk about that in individual coaching sessions if you want to dive deep in there. And then, Kathleen asks, what do we get as a coaching session? Excellent question. So, and Melissa says the midline exercise was super helpful. Had not heard the science behind that. Very good. I'm so glad that was helpful, Melissa. Okay, so Kathleen, for the coaching sessions, I am going to, so each individual coaching session is a 50-minute online coaching session. So you join just like this with Zoom, you join from anywhere. It's a 50-minute coaching session and you get the recording. So I will record it. So you get the recording sent to you afterwards. And then also for the duration of us working together, whether you just have like a few coaching sessions, or if you're working with me for a month or several months, or whatever, however you want to do that, for the duration of you working with me, you actually get access to me on Voxer, which is a app that is kind of like a walkie-talkie app. So you can do vocal recordings or you can text. But that would be in between sessions, you would have access to me. So if you have a question about something specific, or like, hey, I tried this one thing and I don't think I'm doing it right, or whatever, or like, this didn't really work for me, I need help, or whatever. So you actually get extra bonus help in between your coaching sessions with the Voxer app, which is just easy, it's free app that you just download onto your phone, but it's like a walkie-talkie. So like I would respond within 24 hours of you dropping me a message. And then, but that gives you extra access to me. And then in addition to the coaching session. So each individual coaching session is a 50-minute session. The bundle of 4 sessions. So individual coaching sessions, let me see if I can, you know what, I'm just going to pull that up. Let's see. Here we go. Well, I was going to try to pull up, Kathleen, that my website, but so on the website, you'll see it under under are the short, let's see. I have the link here. I'm gonna just copy this link. I'm gonna put it in the chat again. So, because you'll be able to see specifically on there. That's the link. So the individual coaching sessions, if you just schedule for one, it's $89. If you schedule a bundle of 4, it's $75 per session. So you get a discount that way. And then, like I said, if you schedule tonight before midnight tonight, you get that extra bonus one. So if you schedule 1, you get 2 sessions. If you schedule 4, you get 5 sessions. So does that answer your question, Kathleen? Make sure I answered your. I was thinking that you were asking just what's included as part of the coaching session, but just let me know if you have any questions about that. Oh, Nicole says Voxer is cool. Yeah, I'm glad you like that. It's kind of new to me, but I love it now. All right, any other questions? Thank you all so much. I had that on the slide, but we're not going to even try to share the slides again. I had the thank you slide. But thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for showing up live. For those of y'all that showed up live, if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. If you have any questions at all, you just email me at heather@restoredholisticcoaching.com and or respond to any of the emails that I send you. You can just respond right back. I will respond personally to your questions. But I hope that this was helpful to y'all tonight. I know it was a lot of information, but I look forward, maybe I will see some of y'all in individual coaching sessions. That would be really cool. And then, but like I said, if y'all have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. But also, if you're wanting a coaching session, I would jump in and get it before midnight so you get that extra one for bonus. So, and then those of y'all who are here live, I'm going to send you your poem printables in the next day or so. So be on the lookout for that. So I hope that y'all all have a good evening. Thank you for spending time with me, and I will talk to y'all all very soon.